Over the last couple of weeks, you definitely wouldn't have been able to escape the new Galaxy Z Fold 7, and quite rightly. I've used a lot of foldables, and this one might be one of the best that I've got my hands on. It's definitely not the best hardware you can get on a foldable, but I think it is the most complete, and I also think making this thinner, Samsung might have finally just made folding phones more mainstream than ever. But I still think the biggest problem stopping a lot of people going all in on Samsung's newest foldable is going to be the price. It's almost $2,000, and before you go off and spend that entire ton of money you've been saving on a single phone, I wanted to give you a couple of alternatives. And the first option here, an alternative to the Z Fold 7, is going back just one generation and picking up Samsung Galaxy's Z Fold 6. Samsung was arguably the pioneer of folding phones, and just a few weeks ago, the Z Fold 6 was the pinnacle of Samsung's foldable portfolio. And the Z Fold 7 is definitely better. It's lighter, it's thinner, and the cover display is also more usable than ever when closed. But if you're okay with missing out on a few of those things, then I still think the Galaxy Z Fold 6 is actually a great shout. The Z Fold 7 does have slightly bigger displays, but not by much. The cover display on the Z Fold 6 is 6.3 inches compared to the newer 6.5 inches on the new Fold. And that folding display is slightly smaller on the Z Fold 6, but it's not by a huge amount. And then when you look at cameras, that main camera on the Z Fold 6 is only 50 megapixels compared to the 200 megapixels on the newer Fold 7. But mostly, you're not going to notice a huge difference as they're both set to 12 megapixels by default anyway. And they're the biggest differences between the two generations. But then these phones start to get quite similar. The Z Fold 6 has the same base 256 gigs storage as the newer Fold 7. It has the same 12 gig of RAM, the same 4,400 milliamp hour battery, and it has the same 10 megapixel telephoto lens and 12 megapixel ultra wide lens. And this is definitely still powerful for most tasks because it is running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So for day-to-day usage, I still think that this is probably more than what most people even need. But the best bit of thinking about picking up the Z Fold 6 is it is cheap in comparison. I've seen these low as $800 refurbished, which might just be enough to tempt you over to Samsung's last generation foldable if you still want to jump into that foldable market but don't want to spend your entire life savings on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. Moving on from Samsung, the next alternative you might already be able to guess, and it was my favorite phone for a long time this year and definitely one of my favorite foldables, and it is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. There's a bit of an argument about who does foldables better. Is it Google? Is it Samsung? But I think just having a Pixel foldable option is a great shout. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold is both thicker and definitely much heavier than the Z Fold 7, but you do get used to that one after a little while. The 9 Pro Fold has a lot to like though. It has a big 8-inch inner display, which is the same as the Z Fold 7. It has a bigger battery than the Z Fold 7 at 4,650 milliamp hours, and it also comes with 16 gigs of RAM. And while the cameras aren't amazing, they're actually pretty decent. You get a 48 megapixel main, a 10.8 megapixel telephoto and ultra wide lens, but then you do also get that processing in the photos that comes with just having a Pixel phone. But one of the best parts of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is definitely that Pixel experience, and I love the Pixel UI. It has features like call screen, hold for me, add me in the camera, and my favorite ever feature, which is now playing. And there's still even the Pixel Screenshots app, if you remember that exists. And with Material 3 Expressive on the way as part of Android 16 QPR1, that is the only foldable that is going to get this UI makeover. If you want to pick this thing up brand new, it's already cheaper than the Galaxy Z Fold 7, and if you just scour the internet a little bit, you'll find it even cheaper than what Google are selling it for. If you want a foldable right now and don't want to wait, then the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is a great shout, but the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is only around the corner, so it might just be waiting just a little bit to see what Google give us with their next foldable. I'm going to suggest something now, which is by no means the best foldable phone you can get, and I would never suggest going out to buy this at full price right now because that would be silly. But for quite a long time, this was the best foldable that you could get in the US, and it is the OnePlus Open. The design of the OnePlus Open I still think looks great. The large circular camera housing, the leather back on the black version, and I know a lot of people liked this phone, and this to me, the design design looks like a phone that was released in 2025 rather than one that was released 2 years ago in 2023. I did mention that this wasn't the best foldable, but it is an alternative you might want to look at. The cover display is smaller than the Z Fold 7, but I still think looks pretty great. And that inner display is only a tad smaller at 7.82 inches. There is still a couple of things though that the OnePlus Open does better than the Galaxy Z Fold 7. The first thing is that the OnePlus Open actually gives you a bigger battery. It gives you faster charging, and it comes with a base storage of 512 gigs. So all of that is actually better than what Samsung are giving us on the Z Fold 7. But because this phone is a couple of years old, there's definitely some problems with it. So its water resistance, its IP rating is only IPX4, which is not amazing, and it only comes with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. There's also no wireless charging on this, and there is only 2 software updates left for the OnePlus Open, so Android 16 and Android 17. Like I mentioned before, I would never buy this brand new right now, but if you find it at the right price and you've never used a foldable before, then I think that this could be a really good entry point just to see what a foldable is all about before you start committing to spending something like $2,000 on the Z Fold 7. Right, here come the non-foldable suggestions, and I'm going to say this sentence as many times as possible because it is a rare sentence, that the next suggestion is the S25 Ultra, and it's actually a cheaper option than going out and buying the Galaxy Z Fold 7. The S25 Ultra is arguably the best Android phone you can get, and it's been my daily driver for months at this point. And granted, it doesn't fold, but neither does it fold on its specs. The main camera on the Z Fold 7 and the Galaxy S25 Ultra are the same. They're both the same 200 megapixel sensor, but then the S25 Ultra just gives you so much more. The 50 megapixel 5x telephoto, the 10 megapixel 3x telephoto, and the 50 megapixel ultra wide. And you also get a bigger battery at 5,000 mAh against the 4,400 that the Z Fold 7 has. You get faster 45 watt charging, and you still get S Pen support, because remember that the Galaxy Z Fold 7 drops support for the S Pen completely. And I'm going to say that sentence again because I've still never said it about the S25 Ultra when comparing it to another phone. The S25 Ultra is the cheaper alternative, like it's $700 cheaper. So if you want the absolute best that you can get out of a phone, then the Galaxy S25 Ultra might be the one, especially if you take into consideration trade-in and carrier subsidies. Like, this is a really good option, and it gives you the best that Samsung can throw at you. Now, granted, the S25 Ultra isn't as fun as the Z Fold 7, but there is a phone that is almost as fun as the Z Fold 7, and that is the Galaxy Z Flip 7. Now, if you still want to have some fun with your phone, but don't really care about the best specs possible, then the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is definitely worth a look. This obviously is the best flip that Samsung has ever sold, and it fixed the biggest problem on the older Z Flips because it now has that full cover display. It's got a 4.1-inch cover display that's 120 Hz, and with a bit of good luck tweaking, you can actually use that cover display to run any app that you want on this. When you flip it open, there is a 6.9-inch display, which is bigger than the cover display on the Z Fold 7, and then it is the same size display as the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Granted, a flip is definitely different to a fold, but because it's different, it gives you a few more uniquenesses about it. You're able to use the cover display as a viewfinder when the phone is half closed, and that is something that the Z Fold 7 can't even do, and I really like that. It is running Exynos, which is a shame because it means that it's not running the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. However, if you're in the market for a fold, then a flip actually might not be for you, but maybe the price can convince you because this is almost half the price of the Galaxy Z Fold 7. It's still not cheap by any means, but it does start at $1,100, which means that you could possibly get a little bit more in the Samsung ecosystem for that. You get the Z Flip 7 and even maybe a Galaxy Watch Ultra or maybe some headphones from Samsung. So the alternatives are definitely out there. I know that all these aren't folding phones on the list, but if you haven't quite got that Galaxy Z Fold 7 budget, then it's definitely worth having a look at some of the alternatives that are around. What I like right now though is that we're in a place where Android phones are fun. You can have a slab style phone, you can have a flip style phone, or you can have a fold style phone, and you don't really have to compromise on specs as much as you did a couple of years ago. But let me know, are you going to pick up the Galaxy Z Fold 7, or are any of the alternatives on this list a little bit more tempting than having to spend $2,000 on Samsung's newest Z Fold 7? Let me know in the comments. Before you head off, why not subscribe to the Android Authority channel? And if you do that, then I'll see you in the next video.